Hello, thank you for joining me today for Unspoken History. I am continuing to read where I left off. The research is on the Mongol conquest of America. So, those of the Tartarians who remained on the island where they were wrecked and who amounted to about 30,000 found themselves abandoned and without shipping arms or provisions or even shelter and expected to be captured or put to death. When the gale had ceased, a large force of Japanese landed on the island. The Tartars concealed themselves from view by some high land, and when the Japanese came in pursuit of them, they made a circuit and seized all the vessels and stood for the principal city of Japan. They kept the Japanese colors flying and were suffered to enter unmolested. They found few inhabitants besides women, whom they retained, but drove out the rest. Uh, it was a thing for the I don't know what they call them, the Mongols. Sorry, I was getting ready to say the Tartarians, but the Mongols to basically just kidnap the woman, and that's my wife. She don't get no say. But Israelites did that too. I read that in the Bible where some I forgot who they. I'll read it one day, but they went to war against a group of people, and the women were left, and they just took what they wanted. Oh, I'll take this one. I'll take that one. You want that one? Okay, interesting. Okay, so they kept the Japanese colors flying and were suffered to enter unmolested. They found few inhabitants besides women, whom they retained, but drove out the rest. The king besieged the city closely for he besieged the city closely for 6 months. When the Tartars surrendered on condition of their lives being spared, this this was in the year 1264. The Grand Khan, having learned some years after that the unfortunate issue of the expedition was in the consequences of the dissension between the commanders. They were fighting. Two ain't gonna work together unless they agree. Ordered one of them to be beheaded and the other to be sent to a savage island of Zorza. Never heard of Zorza, but it was savage, whatever that means to them. Because savage could mean many things to many people. Where he was executed by being wrapped in a fresh buffalo hide so tied up upon him over both arms, which, as it dries, compresses the miserable criminal to death, I assume. To death. Mm. Never heard of that form of torture. It's death. Dry them like a raisin or a prune or something. Marco Polo. Um, the above are the essential extracts from a long account. So these came from Marco Polo's book. In the year 1281, the courier, which the Chinese general sent to the emperor, arrived in court in the third moon. He brought accounts that the army, after leaving Korea, arrived at the island of Kuitichi. Kuichi, I think it's Kuitichi. Then at the island of Tuma, where they learned about the where they learned that the Japanese, after remaining in great force near the city of Tasafu, had withdrawn their troops, not expecting yet to be attacked. If anybody out there speaks, know that I'm messing this up, forgive me on those words that I'm messing up. Japanese words and Mongol words, and okay, sorry. Toward the eighth moon, the sad news arrived that the army on its approach to Japan had met with a furious tempest, and that out of 10 persons, scarcely one or two had escaped from the waves. That was a serious storm that somebody conjured up. Father Gabriel, this one is really mixed in with the words, has confounded this shipwreck expedition of 100,000 men with the project of another, which was extended to have been sent under Atahai, but which did not take place. Okay, Father Gabriel has confounded this shipwreck expedition of 100,000 men with the project of another, which was intended to have been sent under Atahai, but which did not take place. Gabal describes the fleet as being within sight of Pingyao when the storm arose. But the Chinese historian says it was near Aolaunchan. Possibly the Chinese gave the name to some mountain on the island of Pingyao. Kabul says that the Japanese captured 70,000 Koreans or Chinese and killed 30,000 Mongols. The historian which I have consulted says no more than that they were almost all of them drowned in the tempest. Okay, so this was a priest. Hold on now. It said, where is this? It says, where did it say he was? Yeah, Father Gabriel, Gaubil, has confounded this shipwreck expedition of hundreds of thousands of men with the project of another was intended to have been sent under Atahai, but did not take place. So Gabil describes the fleet as he described he is described, I'm sorry, as a father, like a priest. But down here it says that Gabil says that the Japanese captured several 70,000 Koreans or Chinese and killed 30,000 Mongols. Um, the historian which I have consulted says no more than that they were almost all of them drowned in the tempest. Now, what I read before in the video before this one is that when the Japanese saw them coming, somehow their gods and their priests conjured up a storm. And that's what happened. They drowned in the tempest. In the history of China, the following account is given, which differs from the above and from the other Chinese relations. In the sixth moon, AD 1281, Alahan set out on an expedition to Japan, but he died before he embarked. Atahai, who was appointed to succeed him, did not reach the port till after the fleet had sailed. A storm arose near Pinghao, and most all the vessels were sunk. The officers selected those that were least damaged, embarked in them, and left more than 100,000 men in the island. The soldiers, finding themselves thus basely deserted, elected a chief and began cutting wood to construct vessels in which they might return home. Wow, they was going to build another boat. Look, we know how to build a boat. We can just build us a boat and go back home. But the Japanese made a descent on the island with a powerful army and put them to the sword, except 10 or 12,000 Chinese of the South provinces, whom they retained as slaves. Of all this mighty army, only about 3 persons returned to China. Mm, mm, mm. Um, 14 ships and 14 masts, and some of them with a crew of 2,050 men, were equipped and provisioned for 2 years for a voyage to Persia. They embarked in the Piho River, or possibly from Zaytun, and passing by the island of Hainan, they kept along the coast of Cochin, China, to Sampa, which Marco Polo had previously visited in the year 1280. The Chinese ships have a single deck below with the space, which the space is divided into about 60 small cabins. Wow, that's a big ship. These ain't no little boats. 60 cabins, each uh, um, affording accommodations for one merchant. And it's like a floating hotel. They have a gold helm. Some of the larger ships have, besides the cabins, 30 bulkheads or divisions into hold, formed of thick planks, mortised or riveted or rabbited. I think that's Mortised. Mortised or rabbited. Okay, that's probably the way they hold it down. I thought that was riveted, but it's Rabbeted. The object of these is to guard against springing a leak caused by striking a rock or a blow from a well. That must be a really big well, which not unfrequently occurs. When an accident does happen, only one of the divisions is affected by the water. The ships are all double planked. That is, they have a course of sheeting boards laid over the planking in every part. Ships of the largest size require a crew of 300 men. These are big. It is impossible not to consider the notices given by Marco Polo as curious, interesting, and valuable. And as far as they regard the Empire of China, they bear internal evidences of their being generally correct. He sailed from China in a fleet of 14 ships, each having four masts and having their holds partitioned into separate chambers. We observe many hundreds of a larger description, some bigger than that are employed in foreign voyages, all carrying four masts. So this is Barrow's Travels in China, page 45, Marco Polo. The size of Chinese vessels must be very considerable. In February last, a Chinese junk arrived from the province of Guangdong in Singapore, which brought 870 immigrants. Wow. On the second on the second day of March, and another from the same place arrived with 1,050. Observer newspaper, September 10th, 1826. Junk is said in Todd's dictionary to be probably an Indian word applied to a large and small ship. The ship or junk that usually goes from Surat to Mocha is often an exceedingly great burthen. I'm just reading what it says, so I'm trying to. Um, Exceedingly great burthen. Some of them, I believe, 14 or 1,500 tons or more, but those large vessels are very ill built. The writer regrets that he has forgotten in what history he has read a description of a manner in which large vessels were constructed in these parts of the world for the safe and easy mode of shipping and conveying elephants. The side was made to open so that the beasts walk in upon a even platform. So they built ships just for the elephants because they wanted their elephants wherever they were going to war. They could trample on everybody. In describing a Chinese ship, Dr. Haldy says the main and foresail were both made of mats. The first was 45 feet high and 29 broad. This sort of sail folds and unfolds like a screen. Mm. When they hauled it down, they fold the plates one after another. All the tackling, as well as the cables, are made of rattan cane, or the hards of the cocoa tree, called by the Portuguese Cairo. The cocoa tree is called Cairo to the Portuguese. Okay. The bamboo ropes are 300 paces long and are as strong as those made of hemp. But we don't make anything out of hemp anymore because it was illegal. Can't even make clothes and stuff. Just saying. The cables of Japanese vessels are made of straw, twisted, and are stronger than one could imagine. The decks are defended from rain by being covered with common straw mats. The shifting of the monsoon is not all at once, and in some places the time of change is attended with calms, in others with variable winds, and particularly those of China at the ceasing to be westerly are very subject to be tempestuous, and such is their violence that they seem to be of the nature of the West India hurricanes. These tempests, well, apparently these tempests are caused by these priests or whatever, whenever they want. Okay, these tempests, the seamen call the breaking up of the monsoons. These tempests, the seamen call the breaking up of the monsoons. That's what they call it, the breaking up of the monsoons. They blow half the year one way and the other half the year on the opposite point. And those points and times all of shifting differ in different parts of the ocean. Wow. So you got to know which way the wind is blowing before you get in your boat. You get on that side of the ocean, it might be blowing this way. Move over here a little bit, it might be blowing that way. In the China Seas, the northeast or the winter monsoon commences about the month of October or November and lasts till about February or March. It's the whole winter. The southwest monsoon sets in about April or May and blows until August or September. Another quote from Marco Polo's book. In the year 1542, three Portuguese made their escape from Siam in a junk and directed their course to Liampo in latitude 30, but there fell such a storm upon their stern that in a few days they were blown to within sight of Japan. Wow. The whole voyage from Manila to Acapulco, including the detention at the latter place, till the arrival of the galleon back at Manila, takes about 11 months. See, that's what I was saying about, um, what is his name? Napoleon? Napoleon Bonaparte. If it's taking this person, and they're still in the same area here, because he's going from Japan to China, China to Japan, okay? But this Napoleon went from Egypt over there in where Africa is to America, apparently less than that. I'm just saying. I mean, maybe they got a different route. Maybe the winds are faster. I don't know. But I'm just saying it just seems strange to me to be over there in Egypt and in Louisiana at the same time. How you holding down both? Anyway, all right. It said the Manila galleons are restricted by their instructions from um, going beyond the north latitude 30. But if they were to stand to the 40th or 45th degree, they would procure water from the rain, which are generally regular from the 30th to the 40th degree. Moreover, they would find the trade winds in their favor. A French ship in 1721, by pursuing such a course, arrived from China at Villa de Nandaris on the coast of Mexico. What? So he sailed, as long as he take the right course and hit right wind currents that's moving that water. He left from China and then arrived at the coast of Mexico in 50 days. That's 2.5 months. About a little less than 2.5 months. Okay. Well, maybe my previous statement is wrong. If you hit the right current, maybe he could have flew from over there with a whole army because he conquering. Not likely. But anyway, um, 50 days. Wow. It appears to have been in consideration of the storm that the ships were built in such a manner that they could with difficulty be sunk by leaks. And these storms also caused the construction of the Great Canal. Sorry. These storms also caused the constructing of the Great Canal by Kublai. The Emperor Kublai, in consequence of the frequent loss of a great number of vessels laden with tribute, caused the Great Canal to be made. It is 300 leagues in length, so they built something. So we won't have to deal with this situation on their end anyway. Tribute was brought from many parts of the world. In September 1286, the mandarins of Fokien reported to the emperor that ships were arrived from 99 foreign kingdoms at Twin Khufu. These kingdoms are treated as tributaries, but only 8 are mentioned in history and, and under names unknown to Europeans. Those spoken of here are Malacca, Sumatra, Pensacola, Bengal, and from Cape Comorin to the Persian Gulf. All right. Okay, so chapter 1 was basically about them, their beginning of their conquest. Japan and China. Then they moved on to Afghanistan. I think they had Turkey, Hungary. They just swept on through. Crushing everything. They called them the Mongol horde, crushing everything in their path. So I will read chapter 2 because that is where I want to be on them being in America. So, yeah. So I wanted to really get to the part where they're talking about the correlation between American tribes and the Mongols. Okay, their language, the worship. I wouldn't say the worship was brought over here because everybody on every continent worshiped the same gods. Mhm. Yeah, they just gave different names. They might have created a different, sculpture for it, but there's nothing new under the sun. It's all the same thing. What I usually say, same game, different name. Still the same. All right. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And have a good day. Thank you.